Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zest with me, Shel Marie, the podcast that we take you on a journey from the hustle to the harmony, fueling your passion whilst finding your peace. Today, it's an absolute honor to welcome a woman whose story is as powerful as her purpose. She not only has a heart rooted in healing, but is a keynote speaker, life coach, academic lecturer, and a passionate advocate for trauma-informed care. With over 2 decades of fostering experience, having opened her heart and her home to more than 80 children, she's a living testament to love in action. Irina brings a wealth of wisdom shaped by real-life transformation, whether she's leading Heal Your Life workshops inspired by Louise Hay's philosophy or guiding others through the complexities of fostering and adoption. Irina's mission is clear: to help us heal the emotion behind our experiences so we can truly step into freedom. Her work has been featured across podcasts, publications, radio, and now right here on Zest, which is an absolute honor. So get ready and let's dive seriously deep into this inspiring conversation with the beautiful Irina. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, what an introduction. Thank you, Shel. Really
So
glad to be here. So thank you for your time.
You're so welcome. And as I often say with these so many inspiring guests such as yourself that I have, I know that even that doesn't even touch on even a small proportion of what you're doing in your heart. So I just really want to acknowledge that and thank you for all you are doing. And to just actually start with over 80 children. Wow.
Well, I mean, you don't sit there and count the kids. It's just that actually my caseworker, after 20 years of fostering, kind of made a list of all the names and all the kids that came through the house, and then we were like, what? What? Was that many? So, yeah.
Again, that in your response to that just really shows your heart, because of course, yeah, no one's sat counting, but first of all, like, the person that took the time to actually acknowledge that and really like shine back to you your incredible impact and more than the number, these lives you have truly changed. Like, wow.
Well, we can only hope, I mean, we do our best and we want them to feel emotionally and physically safe. So I hope that we've done that. A lot of them were very, very small, tiny. So, we do know that it normally should impact kids at any age. But yeah, if they don't really remember, I hope their body remembers, yes.
I'm sure they will, absolutely. Because things like kindness, love, heart, and being welcomed into someone's home is not something you forget easily. So, wow.
Well, it also just shows you how many things we take for granted, So when these kids come, a lot of them have never ridden a bike. Nobody's taken the time for that. They haven't had birthday parties at their home. They haven't even had play dates at their home. So you really start at the basics with many of these kids. Some had never even used a toothbrush, which, blew my mind, where you think, what in today's day and age, doesn't everybody brush their teeth? But yeah, you really start at scratch with many of these kids.
Wow.
Makes you realize how blessed we are when we all have our ups and downs, and nobody has a perfect household and nobody has perfect parents and nobody is a perfect parent, but in the sense that we take a lot of things for granted when things are going well, that we don't know that a lot of people don't even have that.
100%. That's so beautiful what you've just touched on, and actually that really shows as well that it's beyond the number or the impact of what you're creating. It's actually really looking into what does this child need right now, more than just, of course, like an incredible home to live in, but actually let's look a bit deeper. What types of things can I do right now to prepare this child for their outlook and their mindset and their vision on life, basically? Because like what you said, doesn't everyone have a toothbrush, but actually in that child's world. And I think this is where we should be really careful about judgment, especially when people particularly have developed into adults or young adults, of judging them, because we don't know truly someone's background. And if they've never had that exposure, or they've never even had that enter their life, then who are we to judge them? So I really, really admire you for highlighting that and bringing that up. With that in mind, and knowing that you have lived in, whether it's 8 or more than 8, who's counting, countries, as someone myself who's actually lived in so many homes, even though, yes, growing up I had my family, but we moved every 2 years, and from my perspective, what I've read, so I'd love your take on this, it's home to me is not a building. It's not walls. It's something far greater than that. So I would love to know, what does home mean to you?
It's the bits and pieces inside the home. So I've got, like, for example, I grew up in Turkey, and I love the Kapalı Çarşı. You know, it's like a bazaar where you go, and at a very young age I would collect all my pocket money, and I would go and buy a brass ornament, or would buy a little carpet, and I just loved that kind of bargaining and then getting little items. So they're scattered all across, you know, the house, and yeah, my kids don't like them. They say, no, these pots and pans from Turkey and this and that. So they would like to get rid of them. And I'm like, no, that's my childhood, and this is what is my home, you know, like this creates my home, and these are my memories. I don't care which house I live in. I don't even care which car I drive. I'm not, you know, in any which way materialistic with those things. But for me, it's the little pot, it's the little item that I got from somewhere, because all my things in the house really have a story.
So just because this is life, guys, and this is what happens, whether that was picked up or not, it was a slight disruption because an alarm just started going off. But I feel like everything always has its purpose, and this is life. And I think actually it ties a lot into even your beautiful share, because for example, like when we think about polarity, something so significant and meaningful to you has a very different meaning to someone else, which just happens to be your children right now. And and I think, like, even in that, like, things will come into our life, and again it literally goes back to what I feel like we just said previously about the child and the toothbrush and significant things to us, and whether this building is a home, because we don't know, again, the significance of what something means to somebody. So again, like, even it could even be as simple as a child having an item that, you know, this item actually, regardless of where they're moving around, even if it looks tatty and ruined or whatever to someone else, or smelly, to that child, that could be their one little thing that actually is home and means the world to them. So I think I don't know why, but I feel like everything ties in it, and even with what you shared is a beautiful message to just
also, you know, when you said moving homes and so on, and I think it also teaches us to be flexible. So if you have a glitch with technology and so on, I mean, it doesn't bother me whatsoever, because I mean, how many times in Turkey I used to go to the switch for electricity and there was no electricity, or would turn on the tap and there was no water. I mean, I know it has improved since then, but it's like things like that. You go to other countries and you can't expect it to work the same way. So for me, it's the same, that if you go from one home to the other, you always think that until you actually go and have a play date at your friend's house, or you actually enter somebody else's house, that you realize, what? It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's like you take it for granted, and the way you grow up, you think that's normal. So even a chaotic home, or when there's mental health or when there's domestic violence, for many kids that is the normal, and until and unless they see something else, they don't really know any better, and they think that it is normal. And this is a big part of it as well, so I think moving around, going to different countries, seeing different cultures, seeing, if it's even just going to somebody's house and taking the shoes off, or, celebrating different cultural beliefs and festivals, everything has something where we can learn from it, and we got to be curious and open-minded to really acknowledge what people do around us. And if there is an unwanted behavior, as they always say, every unwanted behavior has an unmet need. So if it is because somebody needs attention, or if it is because somebody is hurting and doesn't know how to express it, every unwanted behavior comes from somewhere.
It's so powerful what you've just said, and I particularly really had a realization of this when I was older, because, and it's again, everybody, which I want to lead into next, because I know you have one big thing of yours is the emotion rather than the story. So there's a reason why I want to feed this in, is it's really profound what you've just said, because again, we're in our home, whether it's dysfunctional or not, we actually don't know until we compare, which usually comes with age, okay? And I often feel like there's a lot of people, and again, it's their story or that their choice, but I think there's a lot of people that then later in life compare, and then all of a sudden develop these stories and go into these timelines, instead of actually remembering at that time, and of course there's different circumstances, what was the emotion. So for example, if your mum wasn't really maternal, and she'd maybe give you more of a headlock and a how you doing, rather than like a little snuggly hug, even though maybe as an adult or something, you might then be like, oh, I love this feeling and I want to have more of that. But then I think it's important sometimes to be in the moment and not then go back to maybe how you were brought up and be like, oh, and this happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me. Because I sometimes think in that moment, actually, did you feel loved? Did you feel safe? Did you feel protected? And was this the love that you were given from the capacity of the person that wanted to give you that love? So I that's just my take on it, and I would love your take on it. But I feel like, again, sometimes we then will create a story or make something a lot more than it actually was. So even going back to the incredible impact that you're creating with these children, I know that there will come a point where they will have a reflection back on their lives, and hopefully they will reconnect to that emotion of love that they felt of being welcomed into a home, and say, well, do you know what? Actually, it wasn't the best start to my life, but right now I'm able to connect to something that really beautifully happened in my life and see the good of it and where I'm heading next, rather than kind of stuck on the story. And it's not, again, saying that nothing matters to people. We're allowed to feel how we want to feel, but I think it's just really important to go back to actually at that time, how did I feel?
There's a few things there I'd like to comment on. For me, when these kids come into our home, they have a family. We are there temporarily to look after them, so that birth family can have some time to adjust what needs to adjust, and hopefully be stable enough to, get their children back. I mean, that's a positive outcome in the foster care system if the children are actually able to go back to birth family, because that's where they belong, that's where they should be, and that is their family. I also would like to really highlight that I don't ever doubt that the parents don't love their children. I really am, I've met many birth families that were absolutely lovely, that just really went through hard times. And all these parents, and all parents, our parents, they do the best that they do with the knowledge and the understanding that they have at the time. We all try our best, but sometimes our best is not good enough. But then it depends on what you do with it. Do you then also teach the children that, hey, that wasn't great what mommy just did, or, but also always separating the behavior from the love that you have with the child. So even, if my kids or even the foster kids, I always tell them when they go to bed, love you to bits, but really didn't like this behavior today, we need to work on that one. Okay, so always separating, so that the love actually has nothing to do with the behavior. Of course, that's easier said than done. There are moments when you think, but
again, we're human. We're human. Okay, today.
And if we don't get it right, then also say, hey, you really pushed my buttons. We all have our buttons. We all have our beliefs. We all, everything can trigger somebody on something. We all need to work out what our triggers are, and then we also need to say that. We need to say, hey, that wasn't great. Can I make it up to you? And can I say sorry? And that is part of a relationship as well. I mean, it's not always hunky-dory, but also children need to learn that, yes, I can have a bad day, but just like great times, they will have an end, bad times also have an end. Nothing lasts forever. So life is an up and down and up and down. And if we have a bad day, then, my kids then normally come and say, oh, Mom, can we start over? Can we have a new day? And then be ready for it and say, okay, that's fine, but let's also learn from this and let's move forward in a positive way so that we can deal with it better next time should the same scenario come up again. And that's something you teach the kids as well.
So I love what you said, because I would love your take on this, but what I heard was the underlining actual skill is communication.
And emotional regulation. So many people ask us, out of, all these kids, what is the typical behavior that you see? And yes, every child is different, but what really it became very clear after, the question that I get, so what's a typical behavior? And I'm thinking, well, something I see regularly is that these kids are not emotionally regulated. They're all over the place. And for them, because, if you learn about trauma, it is all about the fight, flight, freeze, and all these survival mechanisms that take place in order for these kids to survive in households that are not emotionally and or physically safe or neglect. So emotional regulation is really a big one. A lot of children are very hyper, where often, they also get diagnosed with ADHD very quickly, where all they need is peace in their life and learn to be peaceful, to have inner peace. So if they are a bit all over the place and they jump from one thing to the other, and 1 minute they're really happy and another minute there's an emotional meltdown, we need to get to the bottom of it by not in the moment where everything is heightened, but we need to tell them that, hey, every house has different rules, I get that, but here, in this house, you can have all the emotions. It's okay to be angry, it's okay to be frustrated, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be all these emotions, but first of all, let's give them a name so that you know what you're dealing with. Wow. And then also let's give you strategies on how to deal with it. So if a child is, I always have this one particular example where I could see how this works so well, because we had all the kids on the trampoline and they played a game where then one child has to be in the middle and the ball gets thrown. And this one kid loved the game, just like all the other kids on the trampoline. But the minute he was in the middle, all hell broke loose, and he would scream and yell and shout and hit and all kinds of things. So he needed to, first of all, learn that, hey, we don't scream like this in the garden. We've got lovely neighbors who are the neighbors that,
sorry,
all these different kids and all these different. So that's, first of all, we don't do that in the garden. Let's go inside. Here you can scream what you want, but then also we don't hit. In this house, we do not hit, we do not hurt anybody. So here there's, certain ground rules. So instead of hitting anybody, go hit the pillow. Go hit the pillow as much as you want. When you've, calmed down, let me know. So just be over there in the living room, scream, yell, shout, hit the pillow. But you don't hit anybody else, and I want you to be safe. I want to see you. We don't send them to the room. We make sure that we are within eyesight. And then when they are a little bit calmer, okay, either they run out again and he was playing, but then also in a very like the next day or something, then say, well, when you get angry like this, how does it make you feel? What do you feel in your tummy? And you make the fist and all right, but next time when you feel that, then remove yourself from that. Go and hit the pillow and learn to actually calm yourself down. Give them strategies, give them ways to do something. So the first thing is always to name the emotion, to acknowledge it, to value it, and then to give them strategies on how to deal with it. And then it was really lovely to see that within a few weeks, yes, it took a few weeks, but that you could see from each time it got better and shorter, and he wouldn't stop playing the game. And I didn't see the point in letting all the other 4 kids not play the game, because I thought he needs to learn, so the rules, the game has rules. Everybody else enjoys it. You don't have to play it. No, I want to play. Okay, if you want to play, then you play the same rules with the same rules. So it's, I'm not going to change that, but you can decide if you want to be a part of it, if you don't. But if you are a part of it, then you make sure that you are playing nicely. And if you can't play nicely, you come inside, you calm down again, then you go back out again. And it was really lovely that with all the things that then afterwards he learned to say, hey, now I'm really sad and I feel like this and I want to do that. Okay, fine, let's do that. So he could really name it himself, and he could tell us what was going on for him. And once he was, naming it, once he had strategies in place, then he was able to really learn that he doesn't have to do what he has observed in the past, that if something doesn't work right, you slam doors, you hit somebody, you do a fist and you want to hit and hurt others. No. We say that, hey, good people don't hurt anybody, only hurt people. And that is really where they need to learn that if they want to be good, and they are good inside, they're good, then they need to learn how to act like good people. And that means we don't hurt anybody.
Wow, I know that so many people are going to just take so much from that, because not only have you provided a relatable example regardless of the situation of the child, this is a very clear example of how most children behave. And what I really loved is that I think sometimes there's this zero tolerance, but we need to remember they're children, and like what you said, and provide them with an opportunity to implement, even though they don't understand that they're doing this, but just saying, no, you're not playing on the trampoline anymore because of the way you behave, and having no actual understanding of why. Okay, now you're taking something from me, but you didn't. You said, you kind of allowed, remember? Okay, pull back. Allowed, remember, pull back, because it's easy for us to just eliminate and make it more peaceful for us, but like what you said, actually, what's that child ever going to learn? And that's going to eventually go into their life in other circumstances.
Well, you see it in school so much, if a child does something wrong at school, then it's the punitive.
Well, that's what I was thinking about, because I had a similar...
But when you have children who are already struggling at home, and then they go to school and they act out because of what goes on at home, and then they are punished as well. And we have kids in kindergarten being suspended. That totally goes beyond anything for me. Like, how can you suspend a child in kindergarten and then tell them, hey, you might be struggling at home, but we don't even want you at school. What message does it send? So yes, I also understand that, if you're a teacher and you have 25 students, I mean, you need extra support at the school for this. But this is where we need to invest. By suspending the children, we are just creating even a worst case scenario, because we are not including the children. These children, yes, need to have consequences for everything that they do. They need to have natural consequences. If I have a child who breaks something, then okay, it needs to earn the pocket money and buy a new thing or replace it. So, I mean, there needs to be a consequence. You did something wrong, okay, go pick up all the rubbish on the school ground or whatever. Like, there should be something that, it's a chore that they need to do to work it off. And yes, it's not tolerated, but they need to learn that, there needs to be other ways of doing it than to suspend a child. And if a child, steals food from another kid's bag, then we also, yes, the other mother is maybe up in arms, but we need to understand, why did the child do that? Because in the past he was super hungry, and at the moment he gets enough and he's provided with food, but he is worried about ever feeling like that again. So he, maybe just starts hoarding food or puts food to the side for, the rainy day. And I mean, we need to understand that every behavior comes from somewhere. And it's taken me, I mean, even the scenario on the trampoline, for me, I still don't know what really got him each and every time, but something made him so vulnerable the minute he was in the middle and the ball was thrown at him. I mean, it's absolutely, sometimes we don't know why kids do what they do, but it always comes from somewhere.
Yes.
And my son was, picking up this kid one time, just to throw him up in the air like he does with all the kids. And that kid, then I was told that he had been picked up many times and thrown in the corner by people who would come to the house. So I mean, that's not okay, it's not okay. So every time they do something, there is a reason behind it, and sometimes we never know what it is. And a lot of things like with trauma also, often the immune system gets affected, the memory gets affected, and the logical thinking. So kids that are traumatized, there's often generational trauma. So when you were saying, for example, if a mother, doesn't show the maternal affectionate side, then very often that is because she hasn't been taught it by her parents, So it all comes from somewhere. And I mean, female trauma stays in the women for generations. So there's a lot there, It's like, if people have, I mean, if you look at one of the big trauma specialists like Dr. Gabor Mate, his parents were in the Holocaust, and he's a trauma specialist for many reasons here. But he also says that his upbringing and the way he was, non-affectionately brought up, it was the way that his parents dealt with all the trauma that they had gone through. And he has ADHD, his kids have ADHD, where he also says, he's pretty convinced that ADHD is also trauma related. So it has, it's all connected somewhere. So there's a lot more that we have learned over the years through neuroscience, and to learn how the brain actually heals. And we need to do a lot of rewiring of the neurons in order for positivity to be in the brain, because the brain just knows what's been used a lot, not what's right or wrong or what's real or fake. That's why, when we go to the movies, if the movie is well done, then we have all the emotions, and the brain gets tricked into thinking it is real, but it's not. So, when things happen, the brain doesn't know what is happening, and if it's right or wrong, the brain just knows if it's been used a lot. So if you hear negative things about yourself, and you're always told that you will never amount to anything, or you're stupid and all of that, then the brain just gathers that, and that creates then also our thoughts. So we need to reinforce positivity in the child so that the thoughts get changed as well.
So, wow. Yes, there's so much you just shared there that it's just really, really impactful. And like what you said, I think we're always quick to judge that that person is doing that for this reason. But yeah, strip it back. Like, would a kindergarten child really be thinking about money? And there's something much greater to everything, I believe in. And even going back to as adults, I remember, but again, like what you said about maybe not knowing the story, but the emotion. I remember my first ever meditation and being told to close my eyes and just really feeling very uncomfortable and being like, okay, well, where's the door to leave this? Where's this? Oh, they're moving around now. Where are they going? And there was so much coming up in me. Again, we might not be able to pinpoint exactly why, but it's something that I'm feeling right now, and that it's important for us to address that. And that's why, thank goodness you've said all this, that if we can just take a step back from the learning, the lesson, whatever, and just take a moment just to think, okay, whether we know the background information or not, this is a person right now. How in this situation can we help particularly this little person, so that later in life we don't have as many of these experiences? Obviously, everything's going to keep coming up, like what you said with trauma. And what could be traumatic to one person could not be to another. And that's where we also need to appreciate that something that I might seem insignificant to me, to another about what I'm going through, you don't understand the complexity of why that is surfacing within someone. So I appreciate all that you've said so much, and from being in education previously, I really love that you mentioned that, because this was something that I was really passionate about. Regardless of the data and the analysis, actually, some of these children were coming in, and how on earth can they sit and do a maths lesson when they're sometimes upset because of something that's happened in the morning in their home? And I think, and so many times I generally, even without knowing the story or what happened, I just knew there was a switch, there was a change in this child. And I knew that just carrying on with the timetable and the schedule and the maths, actually in this moment right now, this is a little almost atom bomb that's ready to explode at any moment. So this child, whether it's 5 minutes, 5 hours, whatever, needs some love. And to know that, right now, I love you and I'm going to take care of you. And even if you hit me, you bite me, whatever, throw the table, I'm still going to say to you that it's not acceptable, but I'm still going to treat you exactly the same, because there's something much greater than this. I know that you're not hating me or you're acting at me. I know it's something much more greater than this. And people say, but they spat in your face. I don't care. Because you know what? Actually, that child needed a hug. That child needed some love. And sometimes even the hug was too much for them, because there's too much touching my body and contact. And it's just knowing that even if that child, like what you said, just needed that moment to say, here's a cushion. I used to have cushions in the area, in the reading area. Just even if you into the cushion or something, it just gave them that release. Or go run round the playground. Oh, but it's not playtime. I don't care that it's not playtime. Go and run round the playground, because it's just, and like what you say, it's not a tick list of, oh, do this. It's personal to that child. And that's where it's really important that they feel safe, not only in their home, but in an educational establishment. That if they don't have safety in either place, why on earth no wonder that child can't settle, and they're waiting to, okay, now when this is over, when that is over. So I appreciate so much of what you've mentioned today, and I 100% can relate to it. And it was And I remember always having almost these comments of, oh, but you always get the best class and your children are always beautifully behaved. No, they're not. It's because I use that time, that month, 2 months, whatever, to really let them know I love you. And right now, you are in this space with me, and I'm going to make sure you're safe. And there was even times where children really didn't want to go home, which broke my heart. But like what you said, they have that family in that home for a reason, and we can do the best that we can do in those situations. But just really think, particularly as an educator or as someone doing an incredible thing such as fostering or adoption, how can you just create that beautiful, safe place, regardless of what the behavior is, separate to the behavior, for that child right now? And it's so important. So thank you. Sorry, I got very passionate then, but it's something that really used to pull at my own heart so much, and I wanted to take all those kids home.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with what actually happened in the developmental years. So the 0 to 3 is super important. And that's why kids react differently, because if they had a really good foundation from 0 to 3 and then things went pear-shaped, they can handle it normally a whole lot better than if it happens in the first 3 years. So the developmental trauma has a lot to do with it, because that's when the pathways are connected. And if the trauma happens, then the brain kind of stops developing in that area. So that's when kids often have learning difficulties or memory losses and a lot of other things.
Yeah, super important. So with that in mind, just because I know people will particularly be clicking on this because of maybe either an interest or want more information or whatever it is surrounding foster care and adoption, or even trauma, but particularly focusing on that, from your expertise and just what you've lived through, basically, what myths or misconceptions would you like to clear up now about it, so that people can really see this in a different light, I think?
Well, first of all, that a lot of people think that you cannot adopt in Australia. That's not true. I know that states and territories are unfortunately a bit different, but especially here in New South Wales, it has become more streamlined, so adoptions are possible. Also, if you go into fostering, I would love to work with IVF clinics. I would love to work with people that want kids in their homes, in the sense that we have singles, we have couples, we have same-sex couples, and that they actually consider fostering, because we have so many kids that are in need of a safe home. So if you have time, love, and a bedroom, then please contact an agency, contact me. I'm happy to help you along on the journey, and consider it, because we have so many people that are we are struggling in terms of finding people that have an extra spare bedroom, ever since COVID in particular, because obviously housing crisis that we have, a lot of people have converted their one bedroom into a home office, or have taken in somebody else to pay the rent, or taken in an elderly or whatever family member. So we are short of foster carers. I can never say that we've ever had plenty, but we kind of had more in the past than we have right now. We are desperate for foster carers. We are desperate for people to also say, hey, I would be willing to take a child on permanently, but also if it is for a short time, just to give birth families a break, get their life back together, and then help them out. So if you are willing to have a child in your home and you're flexible to go through the assessment process, then that would be brilliant, because we are absolutely in need of foster carers. And to maybe even consider adopting from within Australia rather than going abroad. And yeah, you don't need to have the same long years and years of wait lists that you also get with looking at overseas adoption. And yeah, we have adopted a child from overseas, but we've also adopted one from here, and we have our biological child. So, but we've also been through IVF, so for me, I know what that means as well. And I would love to work with IVF clinics. I've tried to contact pretty much everybody here, but it's all in the too hard basket, which I don't really understand, because if I could work with those who have been unsuccessful, not to take their clients, but to work with those that have been unsuccessful, who went through the process and it didn't work for whatever reason, and then why not consider to open up your home to the kids that are already here in this world that need a place. And yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot from the children, so it is definitely a learning process as a parent, as a caregiver, working with the system, that's for sure. Also, just understanding what these kids have been through. I mean, I've learned a lot more about trauma to understand how the brain heals. I've learned about neuroscience. I've done my graduate certificate in developmental trauma to understand this better. And yeah, I mean, it's a great learning curve, because I learned a lot about my childhood, about myself, about what these kids may go through, how I might help them. And like I said, it's not about getting it always right, but at least being curious enough to keep learning and to do the best that you can, like all parents do. They do the best with the understanding and the knowledge that they have at that time. So, to just really be open to it and see where it takes you.
Yeah, I love that. And what I really loved is that what we should remember also is we're always growing. So not to judge someone at the capacity they were at then to now. Like, we're always growing, we're always changing, we're always evolving. So I think that's really important what you said. And I'm going to put all your details in the description, and I'm sure there's going to be so many people very inspired by you. And even if, I think this is super important, even if you are just intrigued, reach out. You never know. You never know what will come of it. So I think that's really important. I feel like you've said so many incredible words already, but what I always just like to say at the end of the podcast is, if there's just something right now that you feel like someone would need to hear, what would you tell them?
I mean, I hear a lot about emotional intelligence, but for me it has become really clear in the last few months and years, quite recent, how important emotional regulation is. I just really think we underestimate it in many ways, because if we teach children to emotionally regulate themselves, then they would be in a much better headspace. Because I think we all know that well-being is, mental well-being is absolutely through the roof. We have more kids, dying by suicide. And I also would like to make it clear that the wording committing suicide is not what they do. They do not commit a crime. They do not commit anything. They often feel that the world is a better place without them here. And that is because of, social media and everything else out there. So I would really like for people to pay more attention to emotional regulation, that these children can actually start to recognize the feelings that they're having, start to learn to name it, to have strategies in place, and that when the negative thoughts come up, thoughts are just thoughts. Thoughts can be changed, but you need to be able to change them. And this is where a lot of kids struggle. A lot of kids feel alone. I mean, people are more connected than ever, but really they are more lonely than ever. So, mental well-being is absolutely through the roof. So let's make a really big effort on getting kids to understand emotional regulation, because if they can emotionally regulate, then they are better in their partnerships, at the workplace, in communication in general. So it is absolutely vital that we pay more attention to that.
Absolutely. And I think even for us to be aware of it, just all round is better for everybody, because awareness is key, I feel. So, wow. you've really been such an inspiration, and thank you so much for your time today and
Thank
all
you for
you
this
are
opportunity.
doing. I know you don't even think of it like that. It's not even something I can just feel from you. It's just you. It's just you. It's the embodiment of you and something you truly believe in. And I know that you have definitely inspired. There'll be so many people inspired today by what you've said. And you've touched on way more than just fostering. Like, just the insights you have shared today have been really phenomenal. And I'm super grateful for you and your time. And thank you so much. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, I just keep making this world a more better, safer, loving place. And with people like you in it, it becomes that. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm also happy to share with your listeners any of the books, the ebooks that I've written,
Yeah.
so they can have them for free. So if they contact me,
Wow. Come
that's
on.
fine. That's
Wow. So we will share all of this. Like, even now, she gives and she gives and she gives. You are such a blessing. Thank you so, 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 so
Thank
much.
you. Well, I've written them to raise awareness, so more than happy to share.